According to past year's schedules, Overwatch always gets a new animated short and a new map around the last days of August. But this year, Blizzard won't be presenting anything new at the Gamescom where those announcements always been made. So what are the chances to get a new Overwatch animated short and a new map this year? And when could they be revealed? I'll give you the most probable answers to those two questions before sharing with you what are most likely going to be the characters covered by the next Overwatch Cinematic and Lore masterpiece, as well as their related map and release date, coming up. Alex here on Overwatch Limbo, bringing you a true community experience to learn, improve, and grow together as better players. So if you're new here and want more Overwatch news, guides, and other workshop updates with no messing around, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to make sure to be notified of all my future content. Now, granted that something exciting will happen to Overwatch end of August, beginning of September, since Jeff Kaplan teased us about it last month, chances are very high that he was talking about the new map that Overwatch always gets around that time of the year. And the most probable dates for it to be announced will be between the 20th to the 27th of August, similar to the previous year, at least 1 week after the huge role queue patch, and with a good 3 weeks time frame before the next live patch in order to debug the new map on the PTR. Question is, will this new map come along a new Overwatch animated short? Last year, Busan was announced and promoted at the Gamescom with Shooting Star. Knowing that Blizzard won't be presenting anything new at the event this year, does it mean we won't get the animated short but just the map? Sadly, it's a strong possibility, since Blizzard seems to have been more focused on the new game features than side content and events lately. The little number of skins for the Summer Games event and the pre-announced scarce content for the upcoming Halloween Terror proves that Blizzard has either other priority or less resources to do everything like the previous years. Could the rumored Overwatch expansion announcement at the next BlizzCon in November explain that recent change of rhythm? Definitely. It would also justify the missing release of a new Overwatch animated short in the next few weeks, since resources would have most likely been redirected to the creation of at least one announcement trailer for the Overwatch expansion. But since we also always get an animated short with a new hero at the BlizzCon, it's totally possible that the only animated short that will be cancelled is that one, and instead we'll get a trailer for the new Overwatch expansion. Either way, it seems inevitable that we'll be short one Overwatch Cinematic this year. But the fact that Blizzard won't be going all out at the Gamescom, and that, apart from the game launch ones, Overwatch animated shorts always been released during big events, it seems unlikely we'll get an animated short this end of summer. But if we do, and if Blizzard follow the same pattern as last year with the animated short promoting the new map, then there's only a few heroes and maps that could feature in this new Overwatch animated short. Looking at this table, listing all the lore content that has been produced so far, things are pretty clear. Lucio, Mercy, Symmetra, and Torb are the only heroes from the initial cast without a map associated to their backstory. Zenyatta has barely any lore, but Nepal is without a doubt his map, and Jet said there are some pieces of lore coming for him soon, but Blizzard soon, meaning in more than 6 months. Also, let's mention Pharah, who's the other hero from launch, but has no appearance in any of the Overwatch animated shorts. But as you know, we also have a map for her with Temple of Anubis and a comic mission statement, so I doubt they would solely focus on her in one full animated short. At best, she could take part in someone else's, like Mercy's or Torb's. But the biggest candidates to get the next animated short are Lucio and Symmetra. And why not together? We know that Symmetra spent on the Vishka Corporation account quite some time in Rio de Janeiro, which is Lucio's hometown. And we know Lucio stole the sonic technology from Vishka Corporation to get back at them for what they've done to his neighborhood. So it would make perfect sense for the two to have met, if not to have fought against each other to defend their respective beliefs and interests. And here you have a perfect setting for an amazing animated short and a brand new map in the lively Rio de Janeiro. What do you guys think about this idea? Doable? Exciting? Let me know in the comment section below. Another solution could be to just have independent stories for the two heroes, which would allow the more in-depth introduction of lore characters like Sanjay Corporal, and in that sense the hypothesis of an Indian map where Sim is coming from is also very appealing, especially if that map is set in Utopia, the only city in the world only made of hard light, which could be visually astonishing and bring, why not, some new gameplay mechanics. For Mercy and Torb, locations are a tiny bit harder to pinpoint. We know that Torb is Swedish, and Mercy is Swiss, and even if Overwatch HQ was in Zurich, Switzerland, it got destroyed. Since all the animated shorts and maps are set in the current time, it's doubtful that a map and animated short will be set there. But the same way Rialto and Dorado are associated to Reaper and Soldier, even though they're Americans, it's totally possible and actually very likely that Mercy's and Torb's maps will be set in different countries than their own. In that regard, we know that Mercy was in Middle East, somewhere between Iraq and Iran, at the time of Winston's recall, probably around Baghdad, or maybe in Oasis, which is the southern Iraq. So it would be surprising if another map happened to be in that area, which sadly doesn't let us with much clues for Mercy's map and animated short. For Torb, the same problem applies. He was in Eastern Europe or Northwestern Russia during the recall, and we already have Volskaya Industries. Not much happened in his homeland Sweden, so if an animated short is dedicated to him around the time when Overwatch was getting back together, it must be somewhere else. Maybe another place like Boklovo, where he defeated his old friend Sven, who was planning to destroy the city with his modified Titan. Unless it's another flashback cinematic, Honor and Glory style, in which Torb could remember Operation White Dome in Istanbul, where he lost his arm, which could also serve as a first animated short appearance for Anna, who was also in Istanbul for that mission, a city that would definitely make a good map, Istanbul being one of the most historically attracting metropole in the world. But if, as I suspect, there will be no animated short coming this early fall with a new map, then the location doesn't have to be connected to one of the old heroes. So it could be a map associated to Sigma, maybe in a high security research facility or in the space station he was at, or a map directly linked to Doomfist like Singapore, where he was captured by the Overwatch team. It could also be a map like Paris, Ilias, Lijiang and Hollywood, without any tie to any character currently in-game, and to guess where it could be we'll have to take a look at this old panel from Project Titan that became Overwatch. India and Amazon send us back to Sims and Lucio's home countries, and confirm how likely those locations are to become maps at some point, especially since they have seen a big part of the Omni Crisis battles and had therefore seen huge urban transformations. The Iris picture could be a research facility or space station sending us back to Sigma possible map, even though it seems nowadays that the Iris is more connected to the Omnic Shambali faith. But the real original pieces here are the San Joaquin and Galapagos concept arts, and both are very different map designs from what we have at the moment and are highly anticipated by the community. San Joaquin art could have been an early ideation of what would become Watchpoint Grand Mesa, an Overwatch hidden base that has been talked about before in the lore, and that would bring both sunny outdoors and taking indoors to the table. Galapagos, on the other side, would fit perfectly in the Echo Point category, and would at least partly be set in an underwater facility, which could become the visually most astonishing map of the game. I'm really curious to know what is your favorite new map, so don't forget to vote in the poll up here and tell me in the comment section below why do you think that will be the next map, and if you think we'll also get an animated short with it. Also, if you're curious to know who could be Hero 32, the new Overwatch hero that will be announced at BlitzCon, make sure to check out my ultimate guide to all possible candidates right here. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and have a look at my latest content over here. It really helps the channel out and keeps me going. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember losties, losers are, know your mind.